everyone, happy Halloween. So with this Halloween approaching, I thought I would tell you guys a really fun story time video that is kind of a spooky ghost story. Well, it's not kind of, it is a spooky ghost story. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, and I don't know whatever really stopped me from making it. I just never got around to making it. It's October and I was like, it's Halloween. I'm gonna make a Halloween ghost story time on my channel. Well, this is the story of the stockroom ghost. As many of you may know if you've been following my channel for a while, I had the amazing opportunity to work in Walt Disney World for a year of my life. So I worked in Epcot. I was part of the cultural representative program and I represented Canada in Epcot at the Canada Pavilion, and I actually worked in merchandise. So I worked at the store, so we sold all the jerseys and the Canada t-shirts and the maple syrup and all that fun stuff. So obviously working in a store, we had a stock room. I've actually drawn out on my whiteboard here a small little kind of diagram of what the stock room essentially, how it was set up. Like this is kind of like a bird's eye view of the stock room. So our stock room had two doors. So these are the doors. Out the doors was regular area that cast members and guests used. So guests obviously weren't allowed in the stock room, but walking right outside, they were all out there. So whenever we went in or out of the stock room, we always had to lock the door behind us. We couldn't leave it open. If I went into the stock room, I would unlock the door, walk in, and then close the door and lock it behind me. So our story begins one day. I was down in the main store area and three people were up in the stockroom and they came like barreling down to the store, like gasping for breath, absolutely terrified over something that happened up in the stockroom. So this part of the story, I don't know the full extent of. I wasn't there, but from what I gathered from them is the three of them were up in the stockroom and they all of a sudden felt this like breeze go by them, like a really cold gasp of air, they described it as. So as they felt this breeze, they kind of got a little spooked out, and so they tried to leave the stockroom, and as they were like getting out, I don't know like where they were in perspective to like the stockroom or anything. As they were running out, one of the girls who was in the stockroom, she said that she felt something push her, like literally push her from behind, and she fell and skinned her knee. And I will vouch that I did see her knee and it was skinned. Again, I wasn't there when this happened between the three of them, so I can't for sure say here or there what happened between the three of them or what happened to the three of them. That's what they told me. So now we're going to get into my side of the story. This, I can honestly say 100% happened. It was me. It happened to me, and I'm not exaggerating a stitch of this story, even a little bit. Like, I swear on my life, this is not an exaggeration at all. My part of this story is 100% what happened to me. So the first thing that happened to me was there was a day I went up to the stock room. I don't know exactly what I was doing up in the stock room. I think I was maybe putting away hangers. When people bought stuff that was on a hanger, we would store the hangers, and then every once in a while when that stack got full, someone would bring them up to the stock room. So I think that's what I was doing. I think I was getting rid of the hangers. And so anyway, so I was up there on my own, and then my friend Matt, he came up to the stock room. When we worked there, there was 4 main positions. There was cart, post, cart 2, and post 2. So if there was someone at each one of those posts and there was no need for a rotation or for a break, another person would pick up floating. And so that's what I was doing, was I was floating, which basically means you just kind of walk around, ask what people need, you do random tasks like bringing the hangers up to the stockroom. And so both Matt and I were floating. And so he came up to help me, or I think he was maybe just like taking new jerseys or t-shirts out of their plastic wrap and hanging them to eventually then go down into the store. So he was doing that. Matt and I were in this general location right here. I was doing the hangers and he was hanging things. We were in this general location. And I have to mention that, so all the black rectangles are shelves. We had plastic bins on them that we would store like little trinkets like keychains and stuff. All these shelves had these plastic baskets, or they had baskets or bins of stuffed animals. They had tons of all these things, and all these shelves were metal, and they had these little metal clips that would clip into the shelves, and then you could hang things. So Matt and I are in this general location. I'm doing hangers, he's doing whatever. And out of nowhere, we hear something hit this back wall here and then fall on the ground, and the ground was concrete, so it was like, we heard it. Matt and I go and check out what hit this wall over here. And when we go there, we see that one of these plastic containers that stores trinkets and whatnot had hit the wall and fallen on the ground. So this one plastic container was just on the ground right here. I didn't see it, but we both heard it. So at that point in time, him and I had made a mutual decision to get the hell out of there. So we left and locked the door behind us and went back down to the store, and we were both kind of just like, what the hell happened? I would also like to point out the fact that there were 3 keys to this stockroom. We had one, the second set was in a safe that only the managers had the code to, and the third set belonged to our maintenance guy, and he wasn't working that day. One set of keys we had, one set of keys was locked away in a safe, and one of the set of keys wasn't even on property. So there is no way anyone could have gotten into this other door and done that. After that happened, the same day, it was within the same like 15 minutes, Matt and I kind of calmed down and we're like, okay, let's go back up. We'll get the wire, the hanger rack, we'll finish what we were doing and we'll get out. And so anyway, so keeping in mind that we had the only set of keys to get up there, we get back up here, and I kid you not, there was a metal rack that you would hang clothes on. That metal rack was literally pressed completely up against this door, like completely shoved up to the point where when I unlocked this door and I opened the door into the stockroom, I was pushing this rack out of the way. That no one else had the key. How in the heck did this metal rack get pushed up against the door? So Matt and I pretty much almost bailed at that point again, but we didn't. We stayed and we were finishing up what we started doing. So we're up there, nothing happens. We're staying calm. We're not acknowledging anything happening. We're just doing our work. And then I kind of look, and at the corner of my eye, I noticed that the plastic container that had originally hit the wall here and fallen, I noticed that it wasn't there anymore. Neither Matt and I touched it. When we saw that it had been thrown, we left it and we booked it out of there. And it was a bright green container. Anyway, so I'm doing my own thing, Matt is doing his own thing, and out of the corner of my eye, I looked down this aisle and I noticed that the green container is gone. It's not on the floor anymore. And so at this point, Matt makes the decision to call down to one of the posts where another girl is, and he was gonna tell her, holy shit, guess what just happened? And so anyway, right here, this one square is a telephone. And so Matt and I are here, and Matt goes this way and then up this way to the telephone. So I was like, well, I'm gonna find the green container. Where did it go? So I go this way, up to where it was originally thrown and fallen. I look this direction towards the telephone. I swear on my life, I am not joking or exaggerating at all. That green container was sitting on top of the telephone. I'm getting heebie-jeebies just remembering this. And so that was probably one of the like bigger occurrences that happened up in the stockroom. That and one other thing that I'll talk about. There were multiple times I went up there over the span of working there where I would go up and we would hear those metal clips that I told you about that we clipped into the shelves. We would hear those falling. Now those could have just been like maybe clipped onto the shelves and then like lost their connective whatever and fallen. That could have totally happened, but I heard it a lot. And I also heard them, same kind of deal with the green container. I heard them hitting the wall and then falling. So I can't explain that. If you can for me, go for it. But I heard that a whole bunch of times. There was another time my friend and I were up there and out of nowhere we heard the loudest bang I have ever heard. Now this is Disney World, keep in mind. Someone thought maybe it was fireworks and we just heard a firework launching. It was like 3:30 in the afternoon. They don't launch no fireworks at 3:30 in the afternoon, especially at Epcot. I know at Magic Kingdom they have some shows at the castle and they launch like small fireworks during those shows. I worked in Epcot. We didn't have anything like that. We just had the illuminations in the evening, but there was no special any type of show where they launched any fireworks during the day. And that's how loud it was. Like it literally sounded like a firework just like launched outside of the stockroom area. And it was very clearly coming from the stockroom. Like it was like we heard something like really loud drop in the stockroom. I don't know what it was. I remember getting the hell out of there at that point again. And those little things happening, those things happened a lot. Like the metal clips being thrown around, that happened a lot. I heard lots of things falling, things like that happened almost every single time I went up there. The first occurrence that happened that I told about with Matt, that was a big thing that happened, the bang that happened, and then this was the like scariest thing that happened. It's not as much as like the first thing with the plastic container. It's not as much like movement in the sense that the container was thrown and then it was put back onto the telephone, but this scared the living shit out of me. In the France pavilion of Epcot, they sold perfume. And so a manager came to us and said, do you guys have those little strips for perfume samples? Like you see these strips in Sephora and things like that all the time where it's like a strip and you spritz the perfume on it so you can smell it and see how it smells. So I guess we used to sell perfume in the Canada pavilion, and so he thought maybe we still had some of those strips. He asked me because I was floating, like I told you before, floaters just kind of went around and just did random tasks for everyone. So he asks me if I would go up to the stockroom, take a peek and see if we had some of those perfume sample strips. And so anyway, so I go up, I'm wandering around, looking around, I'm completely on my own. While I was up there looking for these perfume strips, the same friend from actually the first story, Matt, he came up to the stockroom too. I can't remember what he was doing, but he was doing something. We're up there together. I was looking for these perfume strips. He was doing whatever. So how I said before, every once in a while when I would be up there, we would hear like the sound of one of these metal clips like being thrown or falling or whatever. Matt and I are up there and literally at the same time, about 6 of these metal clips were thrown past me. Bring out the map again. Matt was around the telephone area, whatever he was doing. He was at the telephone and I was, I think, at like this or this shelf looking for these perfume strips. I'm there and I was facing the shelves. Let's say I was at this one. I had my back to the wall and I was looking for these perfume strips on the shelf. And I hear this sound and I look and literally 6 of these clips, these metal clips had been thrown past me, hit the wall, and fell right by me. I look at Matt, he's still looking at the phone. In hindsight, could it have been Matt that thrown these? Possibly. But the look on his face when he looked and saw that these 6 had been thrown pretty much at me, like they literally went right past my back, The look on his face, I know for a fact it wasn't him who threw these. And when I finish the story of what happened, you'll believe me when I say it wasn't him. And so Matt and I together got the hell out of there. He took his few labels that he had printed and him and I ran out of there. So we get back down to the main back area of the Canada Pavilion, and we're down there. And my manager comes back and finds us and he's like, what's wrong? Are you guys okay? So we talked to him and we told him everything that happened, and our manager was very nice about it. And then he notices, he's like, oh, so you didn't get the perfume strips? I looked down at my hands and I realized I never grabbed these perfume strips. So Matt says, he's like, oh, I saw them. They're right on this shelf here by the telephone. So I hadn't looked there yet, but Matt said he saw them right here by the telephone. So I was like, will you come up there and get them with me? And he's like, no, because he was terrified, as was I. And so I said to him, I was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. So as I said before, these doors we had to unlock, go into the stockroom, close them, and then lock them behind us. So I said to him, I was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna unlock this door and run in and grab the strips. You stand here at the door so that we don't have to lock it behind us, because you'll be at the door kind of like watching as like a watch kind of a deal. So no like guests get into the stockroom. So I was like, you stand here and wait for me. I'm gonna run in, grab them, and run out, close the door and lock it. So the door never has to be locked or anything. We're not in there locked. And once again, I would just like to put emphasis on the fact that I am not exaggerating this story in the slightest. I promise on my life, I am not exaggerating a single bit of this story. So Matt and I go up there. The lights are all turned out, so no one is in there, because it's pitch black in there. If you're in there, you're gonna have the lights on. So the lights are completely turned off from the last time him and I were up in there. Unlock the door and turn on the light. I run into the stockroom, look on this shelf, find the perfume strips, I grab them and I run out, and I kid you not, as I was pulling the door shut to close it and lock it, I saw one of those metal clips flying through the air towards the door. I promise I am not exaggerating in the slightest at all. I wish I was. That is the story, or at least what I've seen / heard of the Canada Stockroom Ghost. I don't know if anyone else that did their program saw other things or not. I've only heard the story that the 3 original girls at the beginning of this story, I only heard what happened to them. This is what happened to me, and also my friend Matt a little bit. He was there for 2 out of 3 of my like major things. Yeah, that happened. I promise I'm not lying. I promise like that is the very much truth of what happened in that stockroom. I always joke that I think the stockroom ghost followed me home because none of my other friends have like told me stories of like big things that happened to them while they were still there, but a lot of things continue to happen to me. For example, when I worked at Costco, there'd be an empty cart behind me that I would like have to put groceries in and stuff, and that cart would literally suddenly disappear, and I'd ask like the till behind me, I'm like, did you take that cart? And they're like, no. And a cart would just like disappear. Or I've like lost things, like I lost a pair of pants. I cannot find them for the life of me. So there's a very stylish ghost out there like walking around in my freaking Lululemon pants. I have a Sorcerer Mickey hat. I've walked into my room and the like stars and stuff are flashing. There's a button, if you push it, the stars and the moon on my Mickey Sorcerer's hat light up. And so I've walked into my room and just it's lit up and flashing. So it's like, who pushed the button? So I like to always joke and say that the stockroom ghost followed me home, which is like kind of cool because he like likes me and we're friends and he likes me enough to, you know, come back to Canada with me and be my friend. But at the same time, it's like, dude, can I have my pants back? Hope you enjoyed that story time. If you're a skeptic and don't believe in ghosts, then that's cool. Like, you can think and believe whatever you want. I just know this is truly what happened to me, and I'm not exaggerating. I promise I'm not lying about anything that happened. That's my little story. I hope you enjoyed it, and happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you have a very great and a very safe Halloween. I will talk to you guys later. Bye, everybody.